Now what happened? In Apple Valley, in Minnesota, the bodies of David Crowley, who was 29, his wife, Kamel, who was 28, and their 5-year-old daughter, Rainey, were found by a neighbor on Saturday, January 17, 2015. Apple Valley police officers arrived at the house at 12:56 p.m. A pile of packages on the front doorstep prompted the neighbor, Colin Prochnow, to investigate further. When the neighbor rang the doorbell, he heard the dog barking, but no one answered. Mr. Prochnow then peered through the front window and saw 3 bodies in the front room. He also saw a black gun. According to what Prochnow told the Star Tribune, the bodies looked like they were mannequins. To me, they just didn't look human, Prochnow said. Prochnow was not the first person to mistake a dead body for a mannequin. Though he didn't give the exact time or date, sometime in December of 2014, Prochnow heard a noise that sounded like a gunshot or a pair of gunshots, but he did not investigate further. The family dog was found alive but had apparently ripped part of a sectional couch in the living room. The dog will hopefully be released and into the custody of a Crowley family member. When police arrived at the Crowley house, an officer peered through the front window and said there's several obviously deceased bodies in the front. According to police dispatch, one officer was at the back of the house and told them rear slider is unlocked, slightly ajar. Apple Valley Police Captain John Bermel told KAAL that we will establish a timeline and try to piece together what happened in that house. On January 18th, police called the deaths suspicious. The Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, the Dakota County Sheriff's Office, and the Apple Valley Police Department are all involved in the investigation. The neighbor hadn't seen the family in nearly 4 weeks, since before Christmas. Andy Campbell of the Huffington Post claimed David Crowley's social media sites show that he has a fascination with guns. Many of his photos feature pellet guns or military gear. Well, in my opinion, posing with guns in photographs does not prove that Crowley had a fascination with firearms. Crowley is a former soldier. The Huffington Post article further assumes that David Crowley had begun to act strangely over the past year. And as evidence, Campbell wrote, Prochnow said he noticed that David recently started wearing fatigues despite having completed his 5-year stint in the Army and cut his hair short last year. The Crowleys bought the house in December of 2013. Pat Pfeiffer of the Star Tribune reported Judy Prochnow said another neighbor had commented to her about the curtains at the Crowleys' home being wide open when usually they were closed. But neither the Prochnows or Alice or Bill Hickson, who live across the street, heard any gunshots or a dog barking. David's father attempted to call his son over the holidays but was unsuccessful. Local actor Charles Hubble had been trying to reach David Crowley for over a month. He told KAAL, I was absolutely crushed. This is not the David that I know. This is nowhere near the David I know. He was proud of his service. He was proud of his expertise. On July 19th, the New York Daily News claimed that David Crowley had a passion for wargaming, almost mirroring what the Huffington Post said about the deceased director. Some of the questions would obviously be, who was the last person to see the Crowley family alive and when? How decayed are the bodies, which were there for at least 3 to 4 weeks? What evidence do authorities have that David Crowley murdered his wife, his 5-year-old daughter, before killing himself? Why wasn't the dog killed? How did the dog survive for 3 to 4 weeks? What are the entry and exit wounds? Did David Crowley ever state publicly that he would never kill himself? What was the state of the movie Gray State? David Crowley made it very clear this is a film you're going to want to see because it's everything that Alex Jones says put on screen. Here's a David Crowley Twitter post from June 30th, 2014, where he says, last weekend's trip to LA to visit friends and talk shop with producers may just shake the country up because for the first time I feel like I'm connecting with the people who will take Gray State from amateur to pro. Things are going to start to move fast now. Okay, here is a quote from the musical artist Jordan Page, January 18th, 5:13, and he says that the film was about to start production with a $30 million budget from a major Hollywood studio, and he stands by that. The Gray State, The Rise, the rough cut directed by David Crowley, is released to the public and is later pulled down. Mike Pakzesny released this film without authorization from anyone from the Gray State team. Why did he do it? Well, this is what he said on January 19th. How is it possible that David, with all these contacts and friends, who I messaged a month ago on Facebook, by the way, to try to get a hold of him, how does this happen? How does a guy go unnoticed for a month? How does his wife go unnoticed for a month? How does the damage go unnoticed for a month? Where are the families? Where are the friends? What happened here? It's a very good question, because that's all we're really trying to find out is what happened here. And nobody should be standing in our way. Nobody should be putting up roadblocks when we are just asking simple questions. Now, this is Mike's reason for releasing that film, and he's quoted here from the Rundown Live, January 20th, 2015, where he says, "The public deserves to see the movie, and that's what's happening with the documentary." That's about all he really says. His co-host, Kriston T. Harris, also adds that they wanted to make sure that the video, quote, in its purest form, made it out there. It was a decision that was made, and I think it was great. Now, that's about all that they said. Then later on, the same day, they took that video down. Here's a good quote from David Crowley where he says, "It's no longer the conspirator or the conspiracy theorists who have to prove themselves, because everything is so out in the open now. Everything is, except for the questions about what happened with David Crowley. If David Crowley did this, if David Crowley is guilty, then the police should have no problem proving their theory." Okay, here's a quote from actor Danny Mason where he says, "Truth is the truth, and it will never die. You can't destroy truth, okay, no matter what you do." That's the lead actor from Gray State, Danny Mason. No struggle or forced entry. Nick Ferraro wrote that Apple Valley Police Captain John Bermel found no sign of a physical struggle. Captain Bermel said, "If there was a scuffle, you'd expect to find maybe something broken, maybe something knocked over. There was nothing like that." Police found no sign of forced entry into the Crowley house, but they have not yet addressed the police dispatch audio, where an officer is heard stating that the back slider is unlocked and slightly ajar. It is possible that if the toilet seat was left up, that the dog could have been drinking toilet water for 3 weeks. That's possible. How did the dog eat? What did the dog eat? I guess there's that old question of, was a dog eating the 3 bodies during this 3 weeks? We really don't know. Police have not said. Police haven't said much, actually. They haven't released any statement, no statement on this case. And from what I was told privately and personally, they never will. Well, that seems strange to me. Of course they will. They have to. Somebody knows. The real question here is, police arrived January 17th. Now, by January 18th, they were already telling us that this was a double murder-suicide. So whatever they found in that house, when they first went there, led them to believe that this was a double murder-suicide. All that we're asking is that they show us what they found. Show us what proof that they have that David Crowley is guilty. I don't think that's too much to ask for, and it's very simple. The police are really helping fuel all of these different conspiracy theories and all of these whacked out tales by not just giving us the simple facts. It doesn't have to be much. Doesn't have to be any details or anything, but we should get something. The other friends and the other family and anyone who is a fan of David Crowley's work, they deserve to know what happened with this guy. There's a PTSD question, but there's really no proof towards it. Crowley was out of the armed services in 2009. This happened in 2014, late 2014. And he just snaps now. That's really hard to buy. It's hard to think that that could really happen. Without a history of PTSD, why would you accuse him of having PTSD? There's been no signs of it. This guy's been making a movie for 3 or 4 years, and you're saying he's been doing it on PTSD. There was an interesting tweet, actually, that was taken down from David Crowley's Twitter page. And then it was later put back up. So that led me to speculate, well, maybe it was hidden. And once we pointed out that it was hidden, it suddenly was there. And here's that very interesting quote, and it says, okay, the first quote was posted on March 10th, 2014. Crowley says, I have been happily unsubscribing from liberty and conspiracy feeds on Facebook and Twitter. Too much of the backbiting that they claim to oppose. See you guys. It's been fun. You'll still like Gray State, though. Second one had a little more passion to it. Let's just say that. Crowley says, you know what liberty feels like? Unsubscribing from hundreds of liberty or death, fuck the NWO pages and Twitter accounts. A little more flavorful there. On December 9th, 2014, David Crowley posted on Facebook, can you believe it? The rise is almost done. I'm serious. She's coming out to be quite the looker. Can't wait to show you all, but I have to comb her hair for a few more weeks. Anyways, I'm quite serious about giving this film away. I have come to abhor the AJ model of peddling DVDs as truth and cashing in on suckers. I have given this film years of my time, and I am delighted for the opportunity to burn it down by giving it away, and I hope you all share this feeling. You've all given this project a lot of attention, and I thank you. Soon it will be time to go live, and we'll get to watch it all unfold. Well, it did go live. As far as that note, that one note that some people are trying to label as a suicide note, as far as we know right now, it is not a suicide note. David Crowley's friend, Mason Hendricks, was interviewed by the Star Tribune, and he said, it's very short. It's very puzzling. Honestly, it doesn't explain what happened. It doesn't put much into perspective. It's 2 sentences. That's all it is. The Doubts. On January 18, 2015, the host of Silence is Compliance, Anthony Antonello, started off the show with a phone conversation with Mike Pagzesny. It's really sad that it came to this, said Mike. If this is really true, and I believe it is, that's really sad. At this point in the show, Anthony Antonello rightfully states, I don't want to jump right out and yell conspiracy, conspiracy, but you gotta ask questions, man. Things like this just stink. And he's right. Now keep in mind that Anthony is just hearing about what happened at the David Crowley house for the first time. As he is speaking with Mike, he and his research partner are scouring the internet looking for articles, information, and videos on David Crowley. Anthony has a hard time believing the official story. And Mike adds, we're going to get demonized for this. Everybody that was a part of the Gray State Project, which is a lot of alternative media, a lot of the listeners, a lot of the people that know who we are, we were behind this. I got a banner on my website right now. What am I supposed to do? Take it down? And then he kind of answers his own question. He says, yes, you do. That's what you do now. I don't know. What the hell? I'm just being honest. Anthony Antonello basically just says that he's not buying it. I'm not buying it. I don't think a lot of people are buying it because we haven't seen any proof that would prove either way. I don't think anyone should go out there and say that they know that it was the government that did this unless they have proof, that they know it was the CIA that did this unless they have proof. But I still think we also can't say that this was a double murder-suicide without proof. And the proof is there. If the proof is there, then they should show us that proof. If they don't have it, then why are they saying double murder-suicide? So just some very simple questions that I've had here. Okay, so here is part of my conversation with Sean Wright, fellow member of We Are Change, Minnesota. On January 23rd, 2015, at 10:09 p.m., my time, Pacific time, Sean Wright sent me an instant message on Facebook. Now, I haven't talked to Sean Wright in over a year at this point. We've disagreed on other topics. It was a little strange that he would contact me at this time when he's grieving. But what's even stranger is what he actually says. So on 1/23 at 10:09 p.m., Sean Wright wrote this. "What is your deal, man? You know me. You think I would just be silent if I thought there was more to the story? If my best friends were murdered? Please think of the source of the info. Do you trust me?" Here's what I replied. "Who's the source? When will we see the evidence?" And he replied, "Me, dude. WTF is wrong with all of you? Crowleys were my best friends. You think I would not start the revolution if they were murdered or assassinated?" And so I again asked him, "When will we see the evidence?" And he said, "I know the evidence and will share when I can. The people I trust have been told what I can share. I know more than anyone. I'm Sean motherfucking Wright. You think I didn't trench everything before I accepted what happened? No one else would want this to be foul play more than me. Just trust me. Save your credibility." Well, I had to remind Sean that I don't care about my credibility, only truth. When you reveal it, not only will I shut the fuck up, but I will make it right however I can. And he just wrote, "Goodbye, I tried." And I said, "Sorry to hear that, bro, but I understand." And I thought that that was the end of our conversation, but he kept going. And he said, "You can't reverse the damage that you all are doing. Killing the liberty movement. Everything I and countless others poured our souls into because you're so paranoid you can't even trust the ones you know to tell you there is no conspiracy." Now remember, at this time, I never claimed there was a conspiracy. I didn't know that I was a part of a liberty movement. I didn't know that I was a part of any movement. I'm just a follower of Christ, and I go where Christ takes me. So I just told him, I said, "Look, if you're right, then the truth will reverse immediately. It will reverse everything that I've said. And I will look like the biggest douchebag on earth. And I'll have to live with that for the rest of my life. But I only trust God. When the evidence comes out, it should end all of this." So I thought he understood exactly where I was coming from. But then he wrote, "But us and the family are hurting more about what is said and speculated and can't grieve. I'm losing so many friends through this. My word is the evidence. Goodbye, Greg." Okay, well, that's not evidence. And so I said, "That's not evidence. You know better." And he said, "Everything is not a conspiracy." So this has got to be the third time that he's mentioned conspiracy. But I've never concluded and said, yes, this is a conspiracy because we don't have any evidence. So how can anyone ask me to make a rational judgment on anything without the evidence, without the facts? And if this guy has them, why won't he share them? He says, "Everything is not a conspiracy. I guess you'll just be the biggest douchebag." And I said, "I guess we will see in time. And no one ever said it was a conspiracy. Truth will guide us." And he said, "Truth is, David, Kamel, and Rainey are dead. They died on their own terms." Now, what does that really mean? So I just asked him, a double suicide? Because now he's talking about they died on their own terms. How do you know two people die on their own terms? How are you going to say that? He must know something more than what everybody else knows, right? He's got to know something. So if it was a decision that both of the parents made to kill themselves and to kill their daughter, that's not a double murder suicide. That's not a double homicide suicide. That's a double suicide murder. They killed this child. You're saying they consciously, as a team, as a unit, killed this child. I said, okay, I said a double suicide. What do you mean on their own terms? Asking him to clarify. And he said they did everything how they wanted to ensure no one would stop them, and so no friends or fam would find the bodies. Well, that's not true either, because the bodies were found in plain sight. Anyone who looked through that front window would have seen those bodies. Two people did. Two separate people. First the neighbor did, and then the cops did too. It was very clear. So Not only were the bodies easy to find, the lights were left on for like 3 weeks too. And if the bodies were in there for 3 weeks, then they would have smelled pretty bad. And if the back door was open, that smell would have leaked out to neighbors, possibly. It's possible. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying it's true. I'm just saying it's possible. So, anyways, so I asked him, why the child? That part really bothers me, man. And he said, was part of them. Me too. It bothered him too, he's saying. And they had to kill her because she was part of them. Which to me makes absolutely no sense. It's a very selfish thing. It's a very selfish thing to take your own life, but to take somebody else's life is even more selfish. And to kill a child is really what we're talking about here. So there's no reason why the truth can't come out. And here's what he asked me. You tell me you don't trust that I searched for answers before I just accepted they ended their own lives. David and I promised each other that if a government assassination ever happened to either of us, we would hear the truth out till our last breath. He was my brother. Camille was my sister. Rainey was like my daughter. I loved this family. They were the only ones who were truly there for me when no one else was. And he says, how dare you not trust what I'm saying about their death? And I said, I can't even begin to put myself in your shoes. I am 100% an outsider looking in. But put yourself in my shoes for a second. I would never expect anyone to blindly trust me ever. And he said, I would trust you if the roles were reversed, because I know you would know more than I. And I said, but I would tell you the evidence. And I would have stopped all this a long time ago. The ball is in your court now. Take the time to grieve first. But fuck, man, there is no justification for killing a child. Do you see that? And he said, yep. And I said, thank God. And I said, I always planned on contacting you, but I really wanted to talk to you after you're done grieving. But you contacted me, bro. And I respect that. So if David is guilty, do you think the movies and David's work should be released? And why? Consider Chris Benoit's story. That case was more brutal because there was no gun involved. But WWE erased all mention of Chris Benoit. And this is what he said. Gray State will be released. Movie and The Rise final cut. So a couple days passed. No biggie. Other people were getting messages from Sean Wright too. And then he calls me, which I did not like. Really did not appreciate that. So now we're getting into a whole nother part. His message was clear, my message was clear, and that should have been it. Then he calls me and he says, why continue this charade of stuff online, man? And I said, like what? What do you mean? He said, all the BS. I don't give a shit about those guys, but I know you, man. I know you freaking for years. Well, he hasn't known me for years. I might have known this guy for maybe 1 year. We've talked maybe once or twice. I've never met him in person. We've never gone out to any place, never had a drink together. He's never come to any of our meetings. I know other people from We Are Change San Francisco has dealt with him and knows him and has heard of him, and some even have their own thoughts on him. And I said, what have I said that's wrong? What have I said that's BS? And he says, first of all, there's no conspiracy behind the murder. So now we're back to this same thing. Even though I've explained to him that I've never said that this was a conspiracy, I am open to it. But I've never said that this was or this was not. He's saying it's not. Okay. So even though from what he says, 2 people made a conscious decision to kill this child and then kill themselves, that's not a conspiracy. A conspiracy only needs to involve 2 people. So even if his double suicide murder theory is right, which it's not because the cops say something different, but even if it is right, that is a conspiracy in and of itself. That's a whole nother thing. Because we know what he's talking about. He's talking about a government conspiracy, a CIA conspiracy, secret intelligence conspiracy, whatever. It's all the same thing to these guys who want to attack us. But we're not saying that. I'm not saying that. I'm not going to speak for anybody else. And I'm not going to let anybody put me in some group and in some label and, to where we just all get painted as these crazy truthers. People can do that. But that doesn't make it true. He says, it was within the family, dude. It wasn't a government hit. And the property of Gray State was ours. It's copyrighted. That's why the videos keep getting pulled down. I mean, you guys keep going this route, DHS and FBI is going to be on you. You don't need that. And I said, why would they be on us? He says, cronies you're hanging around with. I don't really want to share anything with you because I don't trust some motherfuckers that you were talking with. I just don't want you to go down like that, man. Just please, back off from it all. And so I said, back off from what, though? I mean, I'm just doing what any of us would do, just asking questions. I'm not making any claims. And he says, what questions do you have? I said, where's the evidence? That's the first question that I asked you, and you never, ever answered it. I get it if you can't give it to me, that's cool. And he said, I can't tell you. Like I said to you before, you just gotta trust. Like if it was one of your best friends that died, I wouldn't ask questions beyond something you couldn't tell me. But if you told me it was fact, and it was something you truly believed, I would go with it. And I said, yeah, but I would give you proof, bro. I mean, you're not giving me much here, which is true. And he just told me he can't give me proof. He can't give me proof. And I said, why not? He says, because of stuff that's going on, is what he says. Why he can't give me proof. Because of stuff that's going on. Like what? What's going on? The investigation? And he just asked me to reverse roles. If it was your best friend that died, and you had all these people out there calling, saying his brother killed him, his friends killed him, calling for you to get your ass kicked, all these other things, you know what I mean? And I said, yeah, which I have nothing to do with, right? I have nothing to do with that. And I finished the sentence for him saying, yeah, you're saying that I'm guilty by association. And he says, right, exactly. I'm just giving you a call out of respect to see if you could just free yourself in this situation before it gets worse. And I said, how's it going to get worse? I thought it's solved. If the cops solved it and they've proven their case, then that'll be it. He says, investigation's still ongoing. There's still things that they're going through. Okay, but what does that have to do with the case? What does that have to do with this? So that's the whole fucking thing is weird. And and I just say, well, they already said if it's a double murder suicide, and that is what they're going with, and so they should be able to prove that. And the case will be solved, boom, that's it. And he says, no, not just case solved. There's a lot more than they're looking into for this, but as far as the deaths, yeah, I've seen the medical examiner reports, spoken to the investigators, okay? I'm content with the findings, and I have accepted and understood what happened, as I was probably one of the last people to see them alive. And I said, right, so all that's going to come out. And he says, no, publicly not. None of it will. And I say, why not? And he says the reason why it won't come out is because of people like Dan and Thomas. He's basically saying the reason why the evidence won't come out is because of all of these conspiracy theories that I have nothing to do with. Yet he's calling me and trying to get me to stop being involved in conspiracy theories that I've already told him I'm not involved with. It just doesn't make sense. Nothing makes sense about this. So, and I said, yeah, but that's why it should come out. That's why it should come out. And he says, no, because of that reason, it won't come out. I said, that doesn't make sense. And he says, there's reasons why the information doesn't come out. It's because of the speculators. All the tests that have and needed to be done have been done. Their findings have been shared with us, and there's still an ongoing investigation. There's nothing else to look into. There's nothing out there. That's all I'm doing is just giving you a call out of respect to see if you could just stop with the online nonsense, man. And I said, like what, though? You're not telling me what. What is the online nonsense? And he says, that's all I'm sharing with you. So I'm not wasting my time on it anymore. I just figured I'd give you a call out of respect because we've got history. That is all. So you choose to do what you will with that, man. I'm not entertaining any of the trolls out there or anything else. Just stop it, dude. For your own sanity. Stay clear of everything. Just let it go. And I say, stop what? And he said, and we're talking at the same time, so it's hard to hear what he's saying. But one of the things he says after that is, I'm not a government agent. I'm not any of these things. I've never said that he was. I've never assumed that he was. So for him to say that to me, when he knows I've never posted anything out there like that, you won't find anything out there that I've said like that. But he's lumping me into this large group. That's wrong. Okay, so then there's nothing to worry about. It's all good. We'll just let the facts go out there, and once they are, it's going to clear up everything. And that's it. Because now he's saying that this information will never come out. And he says the truth is already understood, and in any case like this, it's up to the family on what gets disclosed. So the family is not going to disclose anything because of all of the hate that's been going on. And I said, they don't need to. The cops do. They will need to tell us what they have. It's simple. And he said, no, they won't. You don't have any authority to have any information, really. Just telling you, man, you're swimming up a river and it doesn't go anywhere. And I said, oh, it's going somewhere. It's going somewhere. He says, well, you guys keep entertaining your sick, delusional thoughts. And this really pissed me off because I don't know what he's talking about when he said, I said, you've accused me of things, but you haven't given any facts. You tell me that I'm looking at a conspiracy, which I'm not. You're not really giving me much. And it just kind of goes on like that, where it's just like we're having two different conversations, and the guy's not really listening. So he says, all right, there's nothing to pursue about it, but I'm going to let you go. And like I said, I hope you just can make peace that this was just a tragic event. 3 people died in their homes. And I said, that should be easy to prove. Easy to prove. And he said, yeah, like I said, it's just a tragic event, and it doesn't need to be promoted on the internet the way it is, man. I just don't want anything against you, man. I feel that you're smart enough, strong enough, that you can learn when to let things go. That's it. That's all I'm calling you about. And I said, you really want us to let this go? And everything changes here. And he's just like, I would really appreciate it, Greg. Do what is best for you, for us, for the family, for everybody, and just let this go. So now he's telling me what's best for me is to let this go. What's best for us, whoever us is to let this go. What's best for him, what's best for everybody is to just let this go. When if this was any other case, there would be many people in the same circles who would be at least questioning this, or at least condemning this guy and saying, how could anybody support a movie made by a child killer, by somebody that killed his wife? You can't have it both ways. Yeah, and I'm guilty by association. And he said, and if people are going to continue to ask questions, then they're not going to be satisfied, and no matter if all the proof's sitting in front of their lap, they speculate on things. You know what I mean? Even if they saw a video of exactly how things went down, they would still question it, and they would still say it's bullshit. I really don't agree with that. He says, Greg, I've already shared with you what I would have wanted to, and you have yourself a good night, man. I hope you listen to what I say. Choose to do what you will with it. Just take care of yourself and your family. Enjoy tomorrow. I said, yeah, I'd tell you the same thing. He says, well, it wasn't your best friend that died, and his wife and their daughter. I said, well, that's what makes it even sadder. We are looking at this and asking those questions, and a lot of people closest to him aren't. Or they're actually trying to stop us from doing it. There's been many other topics that we agree on, but you're calling me out on this one. And he says, so have yourself a good night, and whenever the family decides to share anything, we'll stand with them on it. But as far as now, it's still an ongoing investigation, and the family and us have accepted everything that has happened, and we know what information is available, and we were around them the past 5 years. It hurts more knowing that it wasn't a conspiracy.